How did one man defeat an empire armed with nothing but truth and peace? It sounds like the plot of a movie, but it's the real-life story of Mahatma Gandhi, the man who led India to freedom without ever lifting a sword. Stay with me as we uncover the incredible journey of a lawyer who became a saint to millions, and discover how his philosophy of nonviolence changed the world forever. Our story begins not in India, but in South Africa. A young, impeccably dressed Indian lawyer named Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi boards a first-class train carriage. He has a valid ticket, but a white passenger objects to his presence. The conductor orders him to move to the third-class compartment. Gandhi, citing his rights as a first-class passenger, refuses. For this simple act of standing his ground, he is forcibly thrown off the train at a cold, dark station in Pietermaritzburg. That freezing night on the station platform was a turning point. As Gandhi shivered in the dark, he made a profound decision. He would not respond to hate with more hate. He would not answer injustice with violence. Instead, he would fight, but he would fight in a new way, a way the world had never truly seen on such a massive scale. This was the birth of Satyagraha, which translates to truth force or soul force. It was the idea that one could resist oppression not with physical force, but with the unshakable power of truth and nonviolent resistance. For the next 2 decades in South Africa, Gandhi honed this revolutionary weapon. He organized the Indian community to protest discriminatory laws. They held peaceful marches, they refused to comply with unjust registration acts, and they willingly went to jail, filling the prisons to overflowing. They endured beatings and hardships without retaliating. It was a radical idea, to win over your opponent's heart and mind through your own suffering and moral courage, not by inflicting pain on them. He was showing the world that you could be powerful without being violent, that true strength lay in conviction, not in brute force. His work led to significant reforms for Indians in South Africa, but this was just the training ground for his biggest challenge yet. In 1915, Gandhi returned to India. But he wasn't the same man who had left. He was now 45 years old, a seasoned activist with a powerful philosophy. He traded his Western suits for a simple, traditional Indian dhoti and shawl, a symbol of his identification with the poorest of the poor. He traveled the length and breadth of the country, not by first-class train, but often by third class, to see the real India, to understand the struggles of the farmers, the weavers, and the untouchables. He saw an India groaning under the weight of the British Empire, an empire on which the sun, it was said, never set. The British ruled India with an iron fist, exploiting its vast resources and people. Any dissent was crushed. The Indian people felt powerless against the might of the world's largest empire. But Gandhi brought them a new kind of hope. He taught them that their greatest weapon was not a gun, but their own unity and their refusal to cooperate with their own subjugation. He called this non-cooperation. One of the most iconic examples of this was the Salt March of 1930. The British had a law that made it illegal for Indians to produce or sell salt, forcing them to buy heavily taxed British salt. It was a law that affected every single person, rich or poor. In a brilliant act of political theater and civil disobedience, the 61-year-old Gandhi decided to walk 240 miles to the Arabian Sea to make his own salt. He started with just 78 followers, but as he walked through village after village, his small band of protesters swelled into a human river, thousands strong. The world's media watched, captivated. When he finally reached the coast at Dandi, Gandhi bent down and picked up a lump of salt-rich mud. With that simple, symbolic act, he defied the British Empire. With this, he declared, I am shaking the foundations of the British Empire. Inspired by his act, millions of Indians across the country began making and selling their own salt. The British responded with force. Over 60,000 people, including Gandhi himself, were arrested. But the prisons couldn't hold the spirit of an entire nation. The Salt March exposed the brutality and injustice of British rule to the entire world. It showed that the empire's power rested on the cooperation of the Indian people, and that if that cooperation was withdrawn, the empire would crumble. This was Gandhi's genius. He took complex political struggles and turned them into powerful moral dramas that everyone could understand and participate in. He organized boycotts of British goods, encouraging Indians to spin their own cloth on a simple spinning wheel. The charkha became a symbol of economic independence and a quiet rebellion happening in homes across the nation. He fasted, using his own body as a tool for protest, bringing the country to a standstill and forcing warring political and religious factions to find common ground. He fought not just against the British, but against the deep-seated injustices within Indian society itself, particularly the cruel caste system and the treatment of the untouchables, whom he renamed Harijas, or Children of God. For Gandhi, freedom from the British was meaningless, without freedom from their own internal demons of prejudice and division. His path was never easy. He was imprisoned numerous times. His life was constantly under threat, and many, including some of his own countrymen, criticized his methods as too slow or too idealistic. They called for armed struggle, believing that violence was the only language an empire would understand. But Gandhi remained steadfast. He believed that violence only begets more violence, creating a cycle of revenge and hatred. An eye for an eye, he famously said, only ends up making the whole world blind. Finally, after decades of struggle, of marches, of boycotts, and of immeasurable sacrifice, the moment arrived. In 1947, the British Empire, weakened by World War II and faced with a nation that would no longer be ruled, finally relented. India was granted its independence. One man, armed with nothing but truth and peace, had faced down an empire and won, but the victory was bittersweet. The British partitioned the subcontinent, creating India and Pakistan, which led to unimaginable violence between Hindus and Muslims. This was a deep heartbreak for Gandhi, who had dedicated his life to unity. In the final months of his life, he once again used his most powerful weapon. He fasted until the violence stopped, walking into the heart of the riots and pleading for peace. In January 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist who disagreed with his message of tolerance and peace with Muslims. He died as he had lived, a martyr for the cause of non-violence and unity. Gandhi's life is a powerful testament to the fact that you don't need armies or weapons to change the world. He showed us that true power lies not in our ability to harm others, but in our capacity for courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to truth. His legacy inspired countless other movements for civil rights and freedom across the globe, from Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States to Nelson Mandela in South Africa. The story of Mahatma Gandhi reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming power and injustice, one person's conviction can ignite a revolution. He proved that peace is not passive. It is an active, powerful force. A force that, even today, continues to inspire us to build a better, more just, and more peaceful world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please give this video a thumbs up. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about incredible people who changed history. See you in the next one.